Ebusia wanwa ye se omampanyin a woso afenam esuan yesa wode amamra ebedi dwuma ewo man Ghana ekọ wiase no egya oman ni sinsemu wa bra wanfa na chi enja obia semi the minority caucus in parliament ana etia Ghana de hyeman na so ewo ho a ewie yi eye legal council a odi the minority caucus in parliament enim lawyer John Dako astormy obi of asempa dwumadie so a oche the consequences of actions a omampanyini eteki na already nimsem se ye vice president Gina na eja yarehwe wa abrochi memu a na eno de ewo hodada nanso speaker of parliament so from manim as of last week Thursday our boy president amane a wanwa ye se president so ja omani sinsemu so kokọ London alongside nano da kwasiada juada sorry kwasiada na no London ti juada no so na yehun wo simpie so Togo na owo dwumadie biase ne no ana the minority in parliament HSA in fact o hwe article 67 a yedidi dwuma wo yeman ni mu a pefe se mampanyine no any step bi obeteki bia na mon bi obetu no was a go accordingly to the constitution na we there is a totally or major breach provision of our constitution na jebre lawyer nankasa no disem wa ha consequences and punishment we be hia say yede ebo yem
no ne problem a momahu say a breach provisions in our constitution nti also mampanyin ebe yi nsema no de mo kan no.
Well, I mean, Nijiri Obi also a lawyer said the other lawyers who more criminal na any kind of foreign president, vice president, any speaker, woman at least when you say speaker, if he Ghana had Thursday, you say Madam Vice President, and see our Bridgia or JR. And you mean the president a year Sunday, or could you more pictures a buyer, SSA, or could share my vice president on Mother's Day? I'm here who sent Hoyer. It is my me or London. And definitely he was out of the country, at least by Saturday night, the Nigeria president, no Nukrumaya. You say the following day Nuna or Togo as so no or represented Oman in that capacity. And at least winning lawyers in Ghana and the cases that have gone to our Supreme Court, including aside our Attorney General, our Supreme Court has upheld or more or less affirmed the provisions in Article 60 at any point in time, we have to have either the president or the vice president, or you swear in the speaker of parliament to be in the country at any point in time. And so, the president, speaker anyhow, and we name Madam Vice President to anyhow there. And then you count na your constitution, you know, and we'll be sure. If you can say he was the last person to have left the country, and whether he sent a letter to speaker's office, we wouldn't know. But clearly, if he had sent a letter to speaker's office, he would have been told that the speaker was not in the country. And I'm not sure the argument can ever be that the speaker of parliament left this country without the knowledge of the president.
Mm-hmm.
And so, clearly, you know, the president knew, or ought to have known, at the time he was leaving the country, that he was leaving the country in this very difficult constitutional vacuum. He had created it, and he didn't mind. He thought it was okay that even though the constitution requires that somebody is sworn in as an acting president, he didn't mind. He felt that it was okay that he would leave the country without an acting president.
But under the circumstance, no lawyer, the next in line would be the Chief Justice, meaning the contemplation of the Constitution. No, you contemplate say an acting chief justice ebetimi aye acting president ana
well, you know, when it comes to the constitutional interpretation, the things will have to be expressly provided.
Yeah.
If it's not expressly provided for, it is difficult to read into a constitution. All right, when it comes to this interpretation, and see, your constitution, what is written black and white is the fact that the Speaker of Parliament ought to act if the president and the vice president is in the country.
Yes.
So it's a very simple matter. If the president, you feel that you need to go for this international assignment, and your vice president is also outside the country, and of course, because of her situation, she cannot come.
Yes.
You will call the speaker because you have respect for the constitution. Because it is that constitution that brought you to power. It is that constitution that gives you the authority to appoint ministers. And you are doing that, I mean, nicely. It is that constitution that you say gives you the power to even suspend a sitting justice.
Yeah.
You have done that gleefully. So why are you not respecting the other one that requires you to ensure that when you are leaving the country, there is somebody who will be sworn in to take charge while you are away?
It is a not speaker crowd or man yimua. It was the chief justice or the acting chief justice as swear speaker in as acting president.
Exactly. And you see, let's not as you say
yes.
It happened so many times.
Yeah, I remember the last time you do Ajahodian cry issues by Mahama again. The Supreme Court had to reaffirm say
yes.
It was a swearing in no echoes because I remember say under Do Ajahono first time and president A2 Kwine he was sworn in. It is subsequently or you're not going to say was swear in once there it should suffice, and the Supreme Court had to reaffirm say no every time the president is moving out he has to be sworn in.
Exactly.
It's clear.
And that is the provisions in the Constitution.
Yes.
And you know, President was swear oath, say you execute the Constitution faithfully. Now, we have clear provisions in the Constitution. Now we say with the one fashion, you don't care. The same Constitution that gives you power to suspend people. That same Constitution says, ensure that when you are going away and your vice president is away, there's somebody who is sworn in. You disregard all that and walk away and leave the country into this situation. Look, for me, our point is that the reason why the Constitution is so respected and revered is because of the fact that Constitution, okay? Because anytime a constitutional can be now, when we begin to violate provisions of the Constitution, what we are telling the people of Ghana and the world is that our Constitution means nothing to us. Indeed, if you look at the Constitution, it is just a paper.
Honorable, it is my tree and also Kakrame Pacho. Yes.
And Kakata, ya trot for Sokeke. Now, so no dear, a money to me, a ma, yamna ponumu ye druno. And they said, a bribiano, ye need your Constitution, a debia ya true mubiano, ye need your mano. So it is that consistent respect and fidelity to the Constitution that makes it unique. And then to say, yeah, I can say, I say, yes, yes, or part of the Constitution,
yes.
You be ya content, young family drama. Both a Ghana for young cafe. The next time, no, maybe I'll call Article 18. Article 18, no, as you say, a chua, your man, quiet, your lawyer, and make one say, we are talking about fair trial. I say no, a baby no. Ghana ni eti honi okurani dem na ya ransack no. Na ye man kwa ma nene lawyers ni nkomo. That would be Article 18 will be violated. The next one no, I say better as a president cross or no crowd, but so some protected. Damn the Constitution. I did be an a yan kakran. Na said you are president. Se di ani die no bua ye nyina de ma no se obi a waye empida wotemra na se yenimra no sa nyema nyina wo hu bi pen Bra, you are before that time no parliament. There were so many times that that situation where the BC is in speaker of parliament or no one vice president said they okay do it the whole time. It happened.
Yeah.
It's a danger now. Wow, Breswani, Ghana for to a Bakama amount. You are president, we say I feel your constitution, who bullying in chair. I feel your constitution, you may come, won't yet now on Fahon. And no any idea I have minority for. Say Ghana for you now, young head, so the idea shots, you know. Yeah, really be a bonnet.
And from reading of the constitution, no, for such a major breach of the constitution, no, asotwe bi wo ho ema omampanyin no ana
we share president me oath of office na we take oath of the president no assemble for time say we new constitution no so say the honia manite na and the oath of office na he will suffer the penalty thereof. Now OSHA article I think 67 always talks about removal of president. One of the main things I just turn on article 67 and they say when the president knowingly violates a provision in the constitution. It didn't specify whether it's an entrenched provision or not. Or say you're not upon the new baby president and you're more who to be subiano. That is provided for under our constitution. And to be some section be over, sir, and you're not upon if it's here.
Not just say the abrofo friend impeachment, maybe to me akoso.
So if you knowingly violate any part of the constitution, yes, you can be impeached.
It be a more as minority and who are two on four ransom hono. Ube two on for say moon triggers our process na.
Now that is a very big thing, and the leadership of the party and the leadership of parliament will have to sit down and make that decision.
But Numpoli, you would need it will come down to a numbers game, maybe.
I have no doubt about that, and you see. This is where we are going as a country. The NDC has, you can say, super majority. And you know, so president, yeah, dear crank, you're trying to say, yeah, or NDC, if they are comfortable, if you say, the baby, no, because of impeachment, parliament, yeah, if you say that, you want numbers, no. And you know, it has emboldened the government to think, say, and they say, baby, I'm going to be me. You saw, say, me, my dear Mefa, me, papa, dear Mefa, and when I do chrono eba. And if you when it looks so easy, say, oh, already, and you're parliament to mean to me here. You are saying another one. I did be another impeachable offense. Oh, yeah, your numbers, no parliament, who mean to me here. Now, that is where we begin to destroy the very fiber of our constitution. Me find the senka. Who would say me question? Say, would I advise to be an impeached president? I will say no. If you say there be a minor drill, no, you know, baby, you want to try this, especially. Maybe I believe say we need to build a country. Into the president and his team should come out to admit that they were in the wrong. Nasa ABAC. Bibi says here, then I did me like I said, the infantry were present in the team. Nobody is interested in destabilizing the country because once you start impeachment proceedings, it's going to cause a lot of chaos.
Yeah.
But it depended also president and in the team the stand they will take, and I hope that they will come out to admit that they were in the wrong. Now a bit NCDM. Look, if we think that provision in the constitution is not good, you see, you don't only apply the constitution when it's convenient to you. And I'm saying a constitution, you apply it at all times, even when it's inconvenient. You understand? And
but we also say the Asari and Attorney General Emma some force and some clarity to that specific constitutional provision, no, and a huge debate. I've heard the plaintiff in that matter, Professor Kweku Asare, say maybe the Datiban reasoning in Asare versus AG, you know, it's no longer fit for purpose. Now, you don't need to be physically present in Ghana with the aid of technology near the baby and say ebia ene Supreme Court ebia the reasoning no will change. Do you think, sir, really we may have to look at that whole reasoning again?
Minya or lawyer when say unless and until that decision is overturned or the constitutional amendment.
Absolutely.
That is the law.
That's true.
All right? That is the law. Now, as to whether going forward we think that that provision needs to be changed, I think that in my view, yes. But when you now say you're building democracy, sometimes we take some of these things from other countries. US, hardly would you see a president and a vice every colony.
Yes.
They hardly do that. Anytime president you can be an advice with colony. So we advance in this democracy, no, they make sure that at any point in time, at least one of them is in there. You know, and look, I understand. I'm a law professor. I teach students. I have taught students with this case. It makes sense. So when the president is outside the country, he's the president.
Yes.
So he's the president anywhere he goes.
Yes.
And so, if you look at it, there will be no need, sir. There will be that provision.
Yeah.
But it is the law.
It's the law.
And in America said, you don't only apply the law when it's convenient. The reason why you are called a Democrat is that you apply the law, you apply the Constitution, even when it's inconvenient.
Yes.
Yes. You understand?
Yes.
Until that is changed, this is the law, and we should respect it. Any concept president, in my view, maybe that's what he was probably thinking. But in my view, I'm still the president, and today I could be a mayor Juma. So you flagrantly violate the Constitution, and you think there should be no consequence. I think that
and will lead me to probably my final question. Are you also a bit disappointed, say, civil society organizations, the moral voices in our country, good governance experts in our country are seemingly quiet on such a major constitutional issue? Or you're disappointed, Kaka?
No, I am not.
Because I asked this question and for example, President of Imani, Franklin Kujo, post be or say, I didn't even notice the president, vice president, and speaker were all out of Ghana. All is smooth and sailing. Sao is fine. No one is digging pits for $58 million. No one is being shackled and shaved off their finances. And no one is giving lectures on how to lock up the dollar in jail. Long may it continue. And many people probably think this way. Am I when you're disappointed?
No, I mean, look, in your normal those days, now we look forward to hearing their independent voices. No, they say no, they are embroiled in the politics already, and they don't share neutral professional views. They share political views, and clearly, Imani is political, and yes, or share any individual neutral view. But see, at this point, the NDC seems to have a goodwill into the Omuyebiano. Yes, you're a president. You become more or less the emperor. The Opibio Chimia says, I'm your post, you boom my na. Young Koso, we should be able to condemn any constitutional violation in this country anytime, any day. It doesn't matter which political party is in power. we should be willing and ready to condemn, especially if we are going to call ourselves independent and moral voices, just like we said. At this point, these so-called neutrals, their true identities have been revealed through their various comments and their actions. And see, I'm not particularly surprised. What my surprise really has to do with the president, because look, I'm an MPP, but I have a lot of regard for the president. Growing up, we saw him as one of the finest politicians. And see, at any time, I expect the president to rise above, some of these partisan, things. And I was hoping, saying, Kabia, the advisors, no crack catch as the president, you can still go. Nobody can do anything. Nothing will happen to you. And the president will say, no, me, I've been a parliamentarian before. I know this law. Let us maybe hold on. Either I send a delegation or recall the Speaker of Parliament, because I want to respect the Constitution. But the dear ambassador. Now, let me make this point.
Okay.
Say the okay, Franklin, let's say President Trump, because the Bonnie
yeah.
The next time, let's say President or Kuma, be a coso. I bet what she would be a bit teacher and the far who did so. I hope he hears. As he said, and also some Como Eba, and I don't know how we are going to defend it. Say, the Labour president, which need to be even if he violates the constitutional rights and human rights of people. It's a sad situation, but look, it's a phase in these are policies, and I know we will overcome it.
Lawyer John Darko, my nurse, a Bibiani, a Bessia Babidin Comobio.
Madame,
yeah,